Welcome to Moksa Workflow Manager Training movies. This is exercise number 3 about recursive tasks. In the first movie of this exercise, we created a new workflow using a second workflow that is called recursively. It looks like this in the Cumulus client. This is the main workflow where the design department will be commissioned to provide a new flyer, and then we will execute what is called a template task until that flyer is approved. Once it is approved, it will automatically be sent to a create collection task. If we have a quick look at the approval task is starting with an approval task from the marketing department, and if the record or the design is approved, it is sent back to the level above that called it. This is done with a pipe task. If it is rejected, then it goes to a commission task, which asks the design department to make the correction. The design department can upload the corrected file, and that is then sent back to the template task. So once again, this template task makes a new instance of this template workflow, and again it will come in here with an approval task. If it is approved, it is sent up. If it is rejected, it will go back to the commission task, and this process will repeat itself until everything is approved. Let's have a look in the web how that works. As you know, Workflow Manager, the portal, is integrated in Sites, so I go to my Sites website and I log in with my credentials, my Cumulus user. As mentioned before, the Cumulus user needs to have the $workflow portal permission to be able to use the portal. The user at this point can search for the assets that he wants to use, or he will be able to upload files in the task. We notice here that we only see Training Movie 1 and Training Movie 2. That is because we forgot to enable this task in the client for the web. Only tasks that are set to portal enabled true will be visible in the web. So until we have done that, it will never be visible in the web. That is also an easy way to take it temporarily out of the web if you are modifying it. So if I click on the template now, the training workflow appears. I can select it. By clicking on this button, I can go to the folder from where I want to upload some files that I want the user, the participant, to be able to use in the next steps. I could also do a multi-file upload just by dragging and dropping, but in this example I'm just going to use that single file. The next step is setting the participants. So I'm selecting this user and this user for each role to be played in this workflow, and I can, for instance, set myself as task administrator. Final step is please create flyer based on banner of last year. This is the place where you add your instructions. These instructions are visible in every task throughout the whole workflow. You can add also additional files. Could be that you already have prepared the text for this document, so in that case you could provide the text for this new flyer. And I can say save. If all my parameters are set up correctly, I will get a summary. I can see if I forgot something, check if I forgot something. I can go back, I can say, okay, but I wanted to add another file because we also had this file which maybe contains the style guide. So that's done, and now I can see I have both files attached to my workflow. If I submit, I can see that my workflow is started with this name and in a few seconds the first person in the workflow will receive an email to perform the first task. So I open my mail client and see that the first person, being Bill, in this workflow received an email. The email contains the information necessary to open the task and also my instructions. Please create flyer based on a banner of last year. This way the person is immediately notified and can open the task. The files that we provided are here available, and here the instruction files are also available. We can see the additional instructions and we can see the generic instructions for this task. The user can now download the file. Notice that you also have a check-in button. That means that if you had to do a correction on this file, then this file should be downloaded, and then you could check it back in and it would add a version to this record. In this case, the participant prepared his design and uploads it in the task. Usually for approval workflows, the file that is uploaded in the workflow will not be the real design file created in InDesign or Quark, but will probably be a PDF, because the person to whom you are sending this might not have InDesign or Quark to open the file. So for approval reasons, very often PDF is used. So now we have the provided file here and the newly uploaded file there. And you can add a comment, you can say delete this file, I made a mistake, or you can just say submit, I'm ready, this task is finished for me. It says task submitted, logging out in a moment. So this person now has finished his work in this task. The workflow manager will now in the back end perform the next task. If we have quickly a look at the workflow reporter, the workflow reporter gives us the opportunity to track, to monitor what workflow manager is doing. And so I can log in as a user, as manager of that department, or as colleague of a user who has to perform a task, and have a look in the workflows. On the left you have predefined selections. So my active workflows are those workflows in which I am a participant, or an initiator or an administrator. My tasks pending is my tasks that I'm supposed to perform. If I click on it, you see there's no tasks for me to perform, because I'm the initiator of the workflow and not the person that is approving or commissioned to do any work in this workflow. However, if I look at my active workflows, I can see that I do see the workflow because I'm the administrator in this workflow, or because I started the workflow. Both reasons for being in the list of this user. So this user can just say open task mail, and he will say, okay, you are Peter, and I didn't find an email for Peter, a task that was sent to Peter, which is correct. This person, Peter, does not perform any tasks in the workflow. However, if I say open current task, it goes to the approve flyer task, and that is the participant in this is Martin. When we look up to the type of task, this is a template task. That means that this task actually has a whole workflow of tasks that it calls. And if we click here, we can see that this is the real first task for Martin Torman to perform, this approval task. If I open it, I am now in the approval task, and I can see that Martin Torman is the participant. If I have a look at the mail, here is his mail. This is the file that came in, and at this point he didn't perform his task yet, so nothing went out. If I have a look here in the mail, I can read the mail. This is the mail from Martin's mailbox. So if we have a look in the mailbox of Martin, we can see that we will have exactly the same mail here. If I click here, or if I click in the Workflow Manager, it will, in the Workflow Reporter, it will have exactly the same result. I'm going into the task as approver. It says welcome Martin, and in this task on my left I can download the files that were available for me, and I can also read the instructions, and I can download this file. Once I've downloaded the file and checked it, or had a look at it in the preview window, which is of course the standard Cumulus functionality, I now can decide what to do with this file. And in this first example, I'm going to reject, because we are going to use the recursive task. So in this case, I'm going to say, please change color of title. And I click on save. The backend checks the rejection and registers your change. It says your choice is rejected. If you made a mistake, you can always still make a different choice or change your comment. If you are agreeing with what you just selected, you can just submit the task, and it checked what you submitted, and now it's going to automatically log out. That means that Martin has finished his job in this workflow task, and that now the next person in line will be asked to perform a task. The next to refresh your screen to get the latest information about the workflows that are running, you can always click here, refresh. This screen does not refresh itself automatically. That's to avoid any unnecessary strain on the server for a window that would be open all the time and that nobody is looking at. So at this point, I'm gonna check my mail again. And yes, in my mail I see that Bill got a new task, and this time the task is called the correction. So it's a correction of the flyer, and the previous task was create the flyer, and now it's the correction. If at this point I click on the link, I get right into the task and I see Martin's remarks on this file. I now have two options, or two ways that I can update this file. I can download it and I can change the file, or if I am the creator, as I explained before, usually in the workflow we upload the PDF, but behind the scenes the real design is of course done in something like InDesign or another document creating tool. So I could just go to my document and make the corrections, create a new PDF and upload it here in the task. We've seen before that I am able to upload files by clicking this button, but I can also check it back in as a new version. I could decide that I need to upload this new version in Cumulus, and the advantage of doing it this way is of course that we're now using the vault of Cumulus. So this new version, you see it now becomes a newly uploaded file, and the advantage of you uploading this inside as a new version, this way it keeps track of all your comments that you made on this. If however you upload the file as a new file into the task, it will be added as another record into this workflow, which means that your comments will be on this record, while this will be a virgin new record with no comments on it. It's an option, and it can be disabled or enabled depending on the settings in your workflow. I'm simply going to submit this task, which means that now my commission task, correction of the flyer, is finished. The next step is once again Martin as an approver getting an email of this corrected file and being able to view this correction, check it, and then decide to approve or reject it again if any other corrections need to be made. In the workflow reporter, I can refresh my task and I can have a look if at the current task, again this template task, if this workflow is already available, and we can see that it's in this template task going to Bill Gunter, and you see this is the actual task that is now being executed. So we can recurse these steps as many times as necessary. Here's the mail for Martin, and we can click on it to perform the task, and you can see that now Martin sees his own comments and can once again download this file, verify, and once he's pleased with the result, he can just say, okay, I approve, good job, save. Once again, this information is saved, verified, and then you can see your choice here in this task is approve. Good job. So I now can submit, and you can see that at this point the task is finished for Martin, and the workflow itself is also almost finished, because the very last task in this workflow after this step, which will visualize as soon as I have refreshed, is that it will create a collection. And so as you can see, all the recursing steps, there is no limit to the amount of loops you can make between correction and approval. So if I refresh, I can now see that Peter no longer has active workflows. Actually, this workflow will now be available in a few moments here in the completed tasks. You see two examples from previous movies, and at the back end this task is now being processed, so in a few moments it will also appear in this list. We can also get a notification here via email. As you remember, the last task in this workflow was sending an email to design, so the designer was Bill in this case. So in a few moments Bill will get an email. The backend runs on a schedule of 1 minute, so it can take a few seconds before the mail gets there. There's the mail, and now Bill has received an email with a link to the approved file. If I click on the link, I go into a standard Cumulus pin collection where I have all the standard functionalities of that pin connection. So that was the final step in my workflow. If I have a look in the reporter, I will see that now that third training workflow has arrived, and you can see that the workflow is finished. It has an end date. That concludes the third exercise, please join me for new exercises in the future. Thank you.